few months ago, we were hearing about Troy Parrott's master plan with a future in the Premier League by 2028. Teams like AC Milan, teams across the German Bundesliga, and other teams in Serie A were looking at him. The question we ask now is why are we hearing things about West Ham and how can we make it go away? Welcome back to Ireland Radar. It has been, I want to say, a 2 month hiatus. I am joined, as always, by my loyal co-host and number one Gianni Infantino fan, James French. James, it's been a while. How you doing?
Are Irish players the worst advised players in the world, potentially?
Yeah, it's like Troy Parrott seeing our. Do you know what? Do you know what it is as well? We've been look. The transfer hasn't gone through yet. Some reports suggest it isn't exactly imminent yet, or reliable reports suggest it isn't imminent. But that's certainly the team he's most closely linked to at the moment. We all expect him to make a move. Some of us have been treating him as the messiah of football for moving to Europe and doing so well and setting an example of not going to England. So or not staying in England. So it would be disappointing if it goes through. I think we're going to talk about more on that later. I think the elephant in the room is where the hell have we been, James? Dawson, not doing a whole lot.
Watching
Uh,
every World Cup game possible.
yeah, a World Cup has come and gone. I think a mix of two factors. Both of us have been extremely busy. So you could probably tell we are doing this remotely as James is, well, we don't live in the same city anymore. And yeah, it's been a bit more difficult to do this. Also, I don't think we had really anything to talk about during the World Cup. And as much as we would like to do a World Cup show or something like that as a bonus, I don't think anyone is coming to listen to us for much outside of
Does the
Ireland football.
world need Ireland Radar talking about the World Cup? I don't
Yeah,
think it does.
yeah, just referencing like everything to do with Irish football, but that's where we've been. But we're back now. We'll see. I feel like this is the third show I've opened up with about talking about a break, but things have been all over the place. But that's why James, we need everyone's support. You know, the likes, the follows, the all that good stuff to keep us chugging along. We have plenty to talk about today as a result, though. I think mainly the thing I've been excited to jump into as the start of the show has been the transfers. Some have been made, some exciting transfers have been made, which we will talk about. We're going to focus mainly on transfers in this show. There's a round of European games that have just concluded last night. We'll be talking about that too. Also, some potential transfers as well will we go over, and there is just a little bit at the very end about the latest kind of controversial update on the Ireland Israel game that I think has struck a bad tone again with Irish fans. We will be talking about that at the tail end of the show, trying to keep this one quick enough. Starting off though, James, I mentioned you as number one Gianni Infantino fan. His plan, I think, is still relevant to talk about in the context of Irish football as a UEFA member association. Obviously, I don't think there's need to get too much into his plan because it has been such big news. Everyone will know what it is. But interesting that the FAI came out so much against it. They're supporting the UEFA boycott, which looks like it's still going to continue. UEFA double down on its threat of European a boycott against future World Cup competitions and the Women's World Cup as well. Yeah, interesting. I do think that if Ireland didn't have a UEFA Euros to co-host, they would be thinking a bit differently than following UEFA's orders or following UEFA's tone because the organization, through absolute fault of its own, it finds itself 36 million in debt, and FIFA's plan, had a very handy 40 million bailout. So it's interesting they're so supportive of UEFA's scheme.
Heard, I think maybe it was Libero, they were talking about how Infantino and FIFA released a statement really trying to protect FIFA's name and FIFA's, in what he was kind of describing as the good faith behind FIFA's actions and in general history, which I thought was pretty ironic considering the absolutely calamitous way FIFA has been run in the last few years, or last many years, but in particular, like since with the announcement of the 2034 World Cup in Saudi Arabia, is it
Yeah, that's
2034?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Michael Delaney was big reporting this, but the fact, kind of some of the facts around how they announced Saudi Arabia as the hosts. I think it was like I think they were given only a few weeks' notice and stuff. All the FIFA nations. There was only one bid from Saudi Arabia. It was all pretty dodgy. You probably know more than me.
Yeah, the
But
long and
like
short of it is that they cooked it to put it in a situation where Asian teams. I mean, it's a much longer story, but they put a situation where Asian teams could only vote for it, and that's why Saudi Arabia got it. Because including all the extra teams in the 2030 World Cup allowed that, and then they basically did a system of you're allowed like appeal a team doing, or you're allowed to like say we this shouldn't happen,
and
but
wasn't it
they
over
did
a
it over
Zoom
Zoom.
call?
Yeah, that was the big thing. They
Yeah,
did it
as well.
over
That was the
Zoom,
weird thing.
so no one could really say they didn't support it.
Like this is the tip of the iceberg with Infantino and FIFA. Like I feel like a lot of people are like only coming to the realization of like just the dodgy stuff he's been doing now, like after this huge instant. But like this has been like kind of stuff like this has been going on for a number of years, and like I know Miguel Delaney's been reporting it, to be fair to him, but I don't feel like a lot of other outlets are really trying to shine a light on it, or maybe it just isn't coming up on people's feeds. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the whole plan as well, how little sense it made was hilarious to me, is because like, oh yeah, they're trying to invest in their future. The only thing that was like Infantino looking to get investments that suited him in the short term, knowing that his presidency will be up. I still believe he's going to get elected in the next cycle. I think elections are at the end of this year in December. I don't think that's going to change. I think it'll be a tighter election. I think it's going to be a much more newsworthy election as a result. But I think he's got too much support from the one vote, one every country gets one vote. I think the more he keeps putting money, like there's just everything has been there's so many bribes that aren't really bribes, and then I don't know. It's a story that I think none of us are really qualified to talk about. We'll leave that to the
The
experts.
crossover between FIFA and the FAI are
Yeah,
very apparent.
I do think the FAI would be taking a completely different tone if it wasn't for the fact that they had the Euros, though. I don't think they should, but it's not like UEFA's owed them any favors recently either. Yeah, enough on that. Glad that it's not happening. Kind of would have liked to see the issues go on a bit longer just so they could get to a point where there is meaningful change. But I think because everything's been sorted so quickly, there's not really going to be anything. And if anyone else takes over, it's going to be the same status quo, really. In other European affairs, we had European football this week. Pretty exciting round of European football. Only Shamrock Rovers picking up a win in the three games. But I mean, when you get games like Ajax and Shelbourne, even Bohemians against Midtjylland, who have proven themselves to be a very strong European team in their albeit short history. But I mean, it's a very good team that Midtjylland had.
One of the smartest clubs in Europe, as Celtic learned last year when we got absolutely trounced by them. Like we were made look like what Bowes
Yeah.
probably should have looked like the other night in terms of like gap in kind of finances. Like we genuinely looked like a second rate side against Midtjylland. I know we were poor last season, but they are just like a very, very well run club, very
Yeah,
smart,
they're
even though
Matthew,
they're
aren't they Matthew Benham? Aren't they Brentford? I'm pretty sure he owns Midtjylland. I think okay, we're on that. We'll start with that game because from what I see now, granted, I only started watching from 30 minutes onwards, or yeah, from the half an hour mark. Bohemians were the better team for the entirety of the game that I watched, and now albeit they didn't create that many clear cut chances. Maybe there's one at the end where Colin Whelan should have done better with it. Kind of turns into a half chance, really could have, should have had a penalty. It was given to them, but then was ruled off for. But some might say it's a harsh offside. Definitely not an offside that would be given in the League of Ireland, considering it went to VAR, which is something they're not used to. But they really put up a fight, and you've seen some players getting subbed on and subbed off. And because I didn't catch the game from the start, I didn't even look at the lineups, and I'm like, hold on a second. Philip Billing is here, and Rasmus Christensen is here, and the striker Francolino is touted as a
yeah,
very good young
he
striker.
scored a couple against Celtic last season, I think.
It's a tremendous
I think it
team
was
they
him.
have, yeah. And you said
To
that
be honest,
they've
I was expecting Michelin and Bowes to be a bigger blowout than Ajax and Shells,
yeah.
to be honest, just off the back of their performance against Celtic last season. I don't, to be fair, I don't know what the context is this season. Maybe they've lost a couple of key players. I don't know. um
The commentary
transfer
team said
wise
they
what
seemed
they've done.
the commentary team seemed to harp on about them looking a bit unfit, so it could have been just that they weren't.
Yeah, and maybe that like Bows are in season, they're at home, they obviously sat back and tried to press smartly. Like I didn't
Mm.
watch the game. I was surprised at how close like the shots were and the XG was. Obviously, both Mitchell and dominate possession. Maybe Mitchell and like you have to give them some leeway considering Bowser in season, but I was kind of really surprised at how close that was, and that's nothing against Bowes. Like Mitchell literally made Celtic look like a second-rate team last season.
It's a very good
Um,
team, yeah.
and yeah, and then obviously Ajax Shells then as expected. I don't think there's really much to say. Kind of in the overall context of the tie, like 3-1 away in Ajax is a really, really good result for Shells considering the quality that Ajax have. They're bringing Julian Brandt off the bench, which is a bit ridiculous. And
And
yeah, I
Micah
think
Gotts as
it's
well,
just
who's
it's
signing for PSG, like for
yeah,
like 50
it's a
million.
brilliant tie for Shells, and that's not being patronizing or anything. Like it's just like the gap in resources is ridiculous. But like given it is still 3-1, like obviously going to Talca Park, like it's technically like the tie is still there. Obviously, you would expect Dykes to go through comfortably, but like to be it's kind of a good position to be in that they're going back to Talca Park, not after like a 5-0 loss or a 6-0 loss where the energy's kind of sapped out of fans. They're going back where it is only a 2-goal lead, albeit you would expect Dykes to go through. It's still an exciting kind of second leg, which definitely is promising.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they had to kind of play for. It's look, you're playing away from home, you're playing. I know an Ajax side that's not the best Ajax side that it's been, but no matter what the context, it's still Ajax. It's still
Still have a
like,
lot of quality, like Lenglet at the back, Blind, I think, still playing somehow. Um, Marcus Leonardo up front, like I think they brought a 20 million signing off the bench.
yeah,
Like they are still obviously a quality side. Maybe not what they were, but they're still obviously like a real top side.
yeah, and their aim would have been keep it within a competitive scoreline, to bring it back to Dublin, so their fans can kind of still go in with a hope of something happening. Not that it's any bit likely, but like it's still, if you want to see,
It's just the context of the Ajax coming to Dublin,
you don't want it to be 5-0.
um, coming to Tolka.
You
It's going to
prefer if
be
it's within 2 goals.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Shells and Tolka in general is obviously always a brilliant atmosphere, but for have Ajax coming to town, have that big game feel about it, and for the game not to talk for the tie not to be over, it's just makes for a much more exciting game than to say if it was like 6-0 Ajax or something like that.
Yeah, and then finally Rovers, they beat Ignatia 3-1 with Burke Lopez and Byrne all scoring. Looks like they will probably go through there, but they probably had the chance to score more goals in that game. Maybe they'd be disappointed that the game isn't completely dead. That has been the case with a lot of Shamrock Rovers games, that they've been incredibly good at home and not so good away in the European games. So that will be an interesting second leg to watch out for them.
I think Rovers probably be disappointed they didn't win by a couple of more. In terms of Irish seasons or like Irish sides in Europe this season so far, like I think we've done probably as well as we could have if Bows and Shells go out in their respective ties, which they most likely will now. I think they literally have gotten as far as they could have given the draw and stuff. And Derry obviously losing to Rijeka and CSK Sofia by a single goal in all four games. Obviously disappointing that they couldn't get any coefficient points, but given the two sides they're up against, you would expect them to go out there. So I think you kind of have to say it's been a pretty good season for our side in Europe, bar probably Shamrock Rovers against Herat in the Champions League second qualifying round, like a huge chance for them to get to the third qualifying round, something they've only done. I think Dundalk were the last thing to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think Rovers have ever got to the third qualifying round because they normally kind of get like a Sparta Prague or a Bratislava in the second round. So to get an Armenian champions, and then if they were to have beaten Arat, they would have got Celia in the third qualifying round too. They've obviously played before. They'd be looking to obviously get some revenge on them. I think they got bet by them in the Conference League last season. Obviously, the incident with Albert Riviera was it, and his comments about Stephen Bradley, which was really strange. But like as I said, like it's if they had beaten Arat, Celia in the third qualifying round, they're not Van Bratislava, they're not Sparta Prague. Like they would be in that tie with a real chance of getting to the Champions League playoff, which would have been just absolutely huge. So I think that's a real disappointment for Rovers, and it was a huge chance for them to get as I said, to the third qualifying round, but then even looking to a potential playoff clash, like something which obviously hasn't been done since Dundalk, is disappointing. I think one of the surprise, I've watched Rovers a couple of times, particularly away in their away games. One of the things that's kind of surprised me is how Bradley's kind of utilized Burke and Byrne. Like I remember during the Conference League run 2 seasons ago, Bradley was talking about the importance of having athletes up front, having obviously guys who can press well and stuff, particularly in Europe. Yeah, Johnny Kenny, Faruja, Dara Burns, guys that are obviously really mobile. And now, like, he seems to have kind of gone back on that. He's starting Aaron Green, starting Graham Burke, starting Jack Byrne. That is not really a mobile front three, and particularly away from home. I think they've kind of got overrun at times. So I've been surprised at that. I know John McGovern's injured, Victor Oceanvion is injured, so there definitely is reasons for that maybe. But I would hope that maybe going into hopefully that now they get through this tie against Ignatia. Obviously, Rovers have got beaten by 2 goals in previous away games. Hopefully, they get through this tie, and I'd hope that Bradley will kind of maybe learn from that and not play Green, Burke, and Byrne as a front three in Europe, because obviously at home it's probably okay considering Rovers are more control, but away from home it's just difficult to kind of get a result with guys that aren't that athletic in Europe, obviously.
Let's get on to some transfers, shall we? There's only 1 month left of silly season, really, and it kind of is ramping up by now. I think the most nailed on thing that we thought going into this summer was that Troy Parrott was going to get his move. I mean, this was touted for a year from when he rejected a nearly 20 million euro move to Wolfsburg last summer to stay for his development. Azad Alkmaar coach Leroy Ektal has said we all know that he wants to make a transfer. I don't think we will keep him in the end. James, we have been talking about an awful lot of places, an awful lot of teams looking to sign him. There was the AC Milan option for a while. It's gone. I think they've signed Gonzalo Ramos. There was a couple of teams in the Bundesliga who I don't see too many of them being interested at the moment. I think RB Leipzig were interested as well last year. There's some interest coming out. 2 teams in the Netherlands. I don't think I'd like to see him stay in the Netherlands. I think he's run his race there and he needs to test. Real Betis, Porto, Como are said to be interested, but I think the big fear is that most of the reports are coming out of West Ham. And to be fair to Parrott, he said he won't go to the Premier League to 2028. So does the 2027-2028 season count if West Ham get promoted? This is kind of bleak if it goes true.
Yeah, I think it was definitely at first. I remember obviously talking on here about like what David Snyder had said in his piece about Para having a plan, about wanting to take things one step at a time and having kind of planned his whole career basically, kind of seeing obviously this summer as the summer where he'd move, and as you said, to one of the major clubs in Germany, France, Spain, Italy, or Portugal. But I think he did prefer a move to the Bundesliga. I think he also actively said that he didn't want to move to the Premier League next. I think he understands that obviously the way how physical the Prem is, he didn't really want to go there straight away. So yeah, to kind of hear discussions about him going to the Championship. Obviously, we're notorious for the show for actively not wanting players to kind of end up stalling in the Championship, or kind of going there when there's offers on the table to European leagues, top 5 European leagues. I think that's something that frustrates us about a lot of Irish players, that they do tend to go to the Championship. In terms of, like, you can obviously see the temptation is there for him to live in London, obviously closer to home, closer to his family. I think his girlfriend is from England. He's going to be on a ridiculous wage at West Ham, even in the
Come away
Championship.
from that, James. I'm looking at a photo of Lake Como at the moment, and you're telling me you would prefer to go to West Ham over living in Como, playing under Cesc Fabregas, a team challenging for top spaces in Serie A. I mean, of course it's biased, but like I think there's not many other teams in the world I'd say is worse for West. When's the last time West Ham have had a good striker? Like ever?
I agree with you. I was trying to
I
explain the
know, I know, I know, I
motivations
know.
behind what, like, why would
But
he be
come
considered, I
on.
guess, when he actively said he didn't want to go to England.
Like, look, the only silver lining of this, the reputable ex West Ham United employee account is saying that the deal is not yet imminent, though they are saying that they're pushing very hard for it. Put it the best way possible. West Ham is like a debt ground for Premier League strikers. I know that he's going to start in the Championship. I could see the appeal. He'll probably still get paid a lot of money there. They're definitely going to go straight back up. We have to mention the strikers who've been touted as good players and have just not worked out there. The joke of signing strikers who are going to flop in England, because gun to my head, I can't remember the last good striker they've had.
Even take that away though, like going from playing like Europa League football, scoring goals, playing in knockout rounds, and obviously Europa League last season, the Conference League season before, like scoring at the top level in Holland against the likes of Ajax, Feyenoord, all these top teams, and going from that to back to playing the Championship. It just, I don't, from a football side of things, I know as I just explained there, like off the field, why it is attractive for him, but like on a football side of things, which on, as Troy has explained, with the path of his career that he intends to take, I just don't really understand the move. And obviously, you said there that like the West Ham account that claimed that the deal is not yet imminent. Like I'd be very surprised if this deal went through just off the back of what he said about planning his career and stuff. And I do agree. I do think it would be a really, really poor move. Emphasizes the broader issue of Irish players being advised poorly, really, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that would be one way to tank all the momentum that he's gotten. The one thing we've been saying about Parrott is about his confidence. I mean, I don't think anything of this move would scream a player with, confidence. Or, maybe he in his head knows how this could work out, but this is not the move of a confident footballer. I don't like the moves in the Netherlands. I prefer them a lot more than this, because you're playing a league you've been playing the last few years. You already know you can score goals there. Go test yourself somewhere else. Even Ajax, they're playing in the Conference League at the moment. That's even less appealing, even though
To be
we.
fair, like I would rather him go to like a PSV who are playing Champions League football, at least if he is to stay in Holland. I don't really want to see
Yeah.
him go to Ajax, but I would take him playing in a minor league like Portugal or Holland and playing Champions League football and coming into Ireland camps full of confidence, rather than him playing in the Championship for West Ham. And obviously a West Ham side they expect to go back up, but like as you seen with Leicester last season get relegated, like the Championship is so super competitive that West Ham are not guaranteed to bounce straight back up regardless of the huge strength in their squad. Like they could struggle, and if they do struggle at the start of the season, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. The West Ham, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. It's not really a great environment. Like, so, like, it's just hopefully this deal does not happen.
Fulham
But yeah,
would
we
be
have to wait and
worse.
see.
Fulham are interested too, but he wouldn't even start
Yeah.
there.
On the one hand, like I did hear, I was listening to the Indo Sport podcast today, and they were saying that they would rather him go to West Ham than go to like Hull or like one of the newly promoted teams,
Mm.
which probably does make it probably is true, but it's just an interesting kind of view on it.
Yeah, I'd say Porto as well. I've seen the Independent reporting on that they're interested. If we can suggest Porto, because we were there a few months ago, and beautiful city. So like
Good nightlife,
yeah,
yes.
good nightlife, beautiful city. Porto were doing their league celebrations there, and it was class. So that's
Stadium's class as well.
just for a suggestion for you, Troy, if you want the Ireland radar opinion. Porto's quite nice.
Only an Irish player could go to the championship for 40 million. No other nationality of player could this ever happen to.
Yeah, breaking a record or something, but it's the championship. But you've segued that for me very nicely, James, because we can talk about another striker's move to the championship. Some would say Wicklow's finest, Mason Melia, season-long loan to Lincoln City. I'm all over this. I love this to bits. I think this is class. I think, according to Lincoln, that there was over 30 teams interested in them. They had interest as soon as he joined Tottenham in January. I think with a player that's only 18, that's only been in Tottenham's academy for 6 months, or their youth team set up since joining from St. Pat's, for them to say, look, yeah, you're already ready to play the championship football. We trust you to do that. The fact that a championship team wanted to take him already, he's coming into this now after 2 Ireland caps, which feels like something in his back pocket too. Although even if it was a bit of a kind of everybody eats squad, like he's still an Ireland international. You can take some confidence from that. Yeah, I think I think it says a lot of Spurs' confidence in him, that they want him to get first team football already, and that there was a lot of teams snapping at him up. Although things do feel eerily similar to Troy Parrott's time at Spurs, because he was very, very highly rated there and had a couple of loan deals in the championship, unfortunately unsuccessful ones. But I think it's important not to, if things don't go too well for him there, not to take it too much, because a lot of strikers have failed in the championship. I mean, mainly Harry Kane was never a massive player in the championship across a number of loan deals, but also Troy Parrott and a number of other big players have failed to make the most of championship loans and have gone on to have very successful careers. But if it does work out, I think there's a chance he's sticking around in the Ireland squad, given we've got 4 or 5 strikers playing at the exact same level as him. So he's going head to head with them now.
Yeah, I think the that is definitely the main worry I have about just this move is that if he isn't scoring within the first few months, that like all the social media pressure is going to build up. It's going to be akin to what it was like with Parra, obviously with his first couple of championship moves, even with Evan last season. I just hope that it doesn't become toxic for him in a sense, particularly from Irish fans, putting too much pressure on him. I think just let him go to Lincoln, let him develop. If he's a starter, if he succeeds, it doesn't really matter. Like it's his first loan, it's to the championship, and he's obviously very, very early in his career. I just don't want people to start writing him off or again, as I said, putting far too much pressure on him. But in terms of the move, the one thing I would say that I prefer over kind of Troy's early move in the championship, like Lincoln, I know obviously coming up from League One, some people are saying they'll struggle. Like Lincoln were absolutely quality in League One last year. Like they got 103 points. They walked League One, like, and as we've seen in the championship last few years, if the champions of League One do tend to do quite well, then like the next season, and a lot of them tend to build on it and stay in the championship for a couple of years. So I don't think that Lincoln will be that poor in the championship this season. To be honest, I know they've obviously lost the greatest player of all time, Jack Moylan, this summer, which who was obviously a huge player from last season. But I do think Melia will definitely get chances at Lincoln in terms of they're not going to be just sitting behind the ball and kind of losing a lot of games. I do think they'll do reasonably well. And as you said, if he does manage to score a few goals, like there's a lot of Irish strikers in the championship, a lot of options now to be honest at striker, like and all playing at similar levels. So like if Mealy does start scoring, Adam Ida is injured, if he isn't scoring, if Tom Cannon isn't getting played, like there's certainly places up for grabs there. So like the striker situation is going to be really interesting to see how it develops going into that first camp in September.
Yeah, and he's also had time with Spurs' training camp squad. I think they're in Australia, so the manager got to have a look at him there too, and that's why the loan was a bit late and delayed because we're closing in on the championship season now. But I think it's good that he's had a look in there. But yeah, I am really excited about this because it's not only about this, but if he does even okay, then he can go up ahead on his next loan spell. Again, only 18, like he can have a number of loan spells before things really click
One
next
nice
step.
thing is that he's Barrett there. We have obviously Ferguson who does need to focus on his next move. But like we do have like relatively experienced options and good options now up front there. So it's not going to be a case of when Troy was going out on loan, like
Yeah.
he is our only hope. It's a bit different than that. So you would hope that will manifest into kind of a healthy environment for him to develop and people kind of not putting too much pressure on him.
Chris, actually, I didn't think about that. That's a great point. Because even you think of the pressure on players like Aaron Connolly, who like unfortunately dealt with it very poorly. The pressure on not Evan Ferguson, the pressure on Troy Parrott when he was very young, as you say, like it just, I don't think he's going
It's
to
just
have
an
that pressure.
insane, unculpable amount of pressure like
Yeah.
that was put on them players.
The final thing I will have to say about this is why I think it will go well for him is the fact that he's played 2 years of senior football already, and that's not something that you can say for a lot of 18-year-olds. I know he's moving to the championship. I brought up this point before on the show, but if like you hear interviews from League of Ireland defenders who are like, he was a very good player when I played against him at 16. At 17, he's one of the best players I've ever played against, who was like so much stronger, like clearly learned how to play adults football.
It was
So
the same talk with Noonan this season, yeah.
the fact that that he already knows some way to adjust to more physicality, to adjust, like he's adjusted now. This is going to be more of a step up physically, but he's done a step up before. He knows he can adjust to it. So I think that's a positive and a good sign
It's
in him.
also definitely a confidence thing. Like Troy was going into his, I know he'd been around Tottenham kind of first team squad on the fringes, but like going into his first kind of adult environment where he's obviously going to be getting consistent minutes, it's a small bit different, and having the confidence to like know I belong here. Like he's not coming from the background of academy football where Troy obviously dominated, but it's different kind of coming from that experience of having played a number of seasons at men's football, having that confidence to know that he does belong there. Like I think that's also kind of a key factor.
Yeah. Um, and then the other big move, of course, and perhaps even a bigger one, is Jack Moylan moving to Cardiff City. Kind of came out of nowhere a week or two ago, but it's been looking to be completed over that time. 6 million fee for that. I think £6 million fee for that. I believe that was his release clause. So sizable enough fee for Lincoln to receive.
Record-breaking
Yeah,
fee for Lincoln, I think, I
yeah.
believe.
Looking at their communications, they did not want to lose him at all. Their fans are absolutely gutted about it, and why wouldn't they be? He was absolutely excellent for them last season. I think there would be people maybe asking, why would he make this move? You know, he played very well for Lincoln. It seemed like Lincoln gave him a lot of freedom to play as a number 10 who kind of drifted out of the left. We've often talked about his street football style. Lincoln let him do that, and you can't do that in a lot of teams. But I think Cardiff are a bigger side. I think Cardiff will probably have a better chance of staying up in the league. They've got a big stadium, like 24 to 25,000 seaters. They're a team with a bit of pedigree in the championship. I imagine they'll be operating with a lot more finances. And Brian Barry Murphy is a manager on the rise who plays very good football, which, I mean, I think it's going to suit him. I think it's pretty interesting that they've gone for this big transfer from Moylan, but from what we've seen, and even from limited minutes in the Ireland setup, Championship could be a very good move for him. From every time I've watched him, like this is already a top level Championship player. I'm not going to go higher than that, but I mean, one day you have said one day you think he'll be Premier League player, so I think he's
And
very much on that pathway at the moment.
I will stand firm on that prediction. But yeah, I think the positive things about this move, obviously Moylan under Brian Barry Murphy to Ireland radar, poster boys, really exciting stuff. Like Brian Barry Murphy, obviously we've talked about before on the show, really exciting manager, obviously this disciple of the kind of Man City Pep Guardiola revolution. Wants to play good front foot football. I know Cardiff kind of tailed off to the end of the League One season last year. Cardiff will be coming to this campaign, wanted to be on the front foot, and will probably be more ball dominant than Lincoln, and so obviously more opportunities for Jack. Probably a step up in obviously club size, but also in Cardiff's ambitions. I'm sure they'll be wanting to push for mid-table, and Lincoln will probably be kind of just looking to survive. On the downside, I think obviously he kind of fitted so well at Lincoln, as you said, like he was so used to the system. You could imagine a scenario where he comes into this championship season in flying form, can just continuing on from his exploits in League One. The worry now is obviously he's going to have to get used to Cardiff City's way of playing. There's a small bit more competition. Like I think Welsh international Ruben Colwell started for Cardiff last season at number 10 for them. Got like over 15 goal contribution. So there's going to be more competition for him at Cardiff. So like if he does kind of drop out of form, he will be out of the side, and there's more depth there than if he was at Lincoln. But again, it's an upgrade in career for him, and in terms of the fit under Brian Barry Murphy, side that plays good football, bigger club. I think it just makes sense, and yeah, it's a good move.
Yeah, I like it. I was a bit curious about it at first, but the more I read into it, the more I think it's going to be good. And you say a different kind of style, a more possession heavy style from Cardiff, I think could improve him as a player, kind of learning something new like that. If it is a challenge, but it's a challenge that could make him stronger. I'm going to move on. We have a selection of kind of miscellaneous, kind of quick fire transfers we're going to run through. I just ran through a list of transfers that I liked, that I kind of went through a big list because like it's the same for even top teams in the Premier League. There's so many transfers that I'm like, when the hell did that happen? I think because we've been encapsulated by a
The Matt
World Cup.
Doherty one, definitely, I had no idea until you put it on the
Yeah,
doc.
not a clue. I actually thought that was something that happened in my Football Manager save, something that happened in real life.
To be fair, that move makes a lot of sense. The move we were referencing, obviously, Matt Doherty, Sheffield United, if you weren't aware, but that move it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna run through a list. I'm gonna start saying the League of Ireland ones, and then I'll run through the list, and you tell me at the end which ones do you like? So, League of Ireland, we've had Bemi Ruby moving to Burton and Owen Kenny moving to Portsmouth. Big fan of both of those. Owen Kenny has kicked on so much this season. I think he's still declaring seemingly allegiance to the Northern Ireland of Ireland. Interested to see if that changes, but either so, it's still a product of the League of Ireland Academy.
Considering our depth at striker, I know he can't play in the wing. I'd imagine he will probably stick
Yeah.
stick with the North, just considering like the ridiculous competition now that would be ahead of him.
Yeah, Bemi Ruby to a League One team just seems right. Like it's a good competitive level. I don't think anyone's thinking he's going to be maybe going on upper tier championship level player. I think League One is a good level to test himself and something that probably will be a challenge for him. Going through the rest, Melia signed from Charlton from Luton. We said about Matt Doherty. Mark Sykes has gone to Millwall from Bristol.
That move makes a lot of sense as well. Bristol to
Yeah,
Millwall.
he's just a good championship player. Like,
Yeah.
he can move around. Connor Ronan to Aberdeen. I don't know if we talked about this last time. This could have been one that was done very on early on. I like it a lot. Sinclair Armstrong from Bristol City to Göztepe in Turkey. It's an interesting one. Our mate Shane Flynn has found a club. He's gone to Connacht. If you remember, we had a show with Shane Flynn a couple of months back talking about the difficulties of free agency in football.
He almost played in a tie against Bohemians if they had gotten past Balkany, I
Wow,
think it was.
geez, that would
Could
have
have
been
been
nice.
could have been box office.
And Will Ferry is in advanced talks to join Anderlecht as well. James, I'm sure you'll tell us plenty about that. Tell me very quickly who you like here, who you don't like.
Just on the firstly on the two guys obviously come from League of Ireland, Arubi and Kenny. Obviously, the narrative I always try to push is that I'd rather these guys go to like a Belgium or even maybe a lower tier league, give them more time to develop. As I said, like what other market is there for these kind of young guys that maybe aren't as highly touted as a Noonan or Melia? Like what other market is there to go to then to League One or League Two? Do you know what I mean? So I do think both are good moves, and even if they don't work out, like they can always come back to the league and kind of still have good careers. But I wish them the best and definitely hope that they can get minutes this season, get meaningful minutes, and definitely and try and develop.
A good thing
Because
for them would almost just
obviously
be completely go under the radar and just become like a solid League One player
under
for
the
the rest of
radar.
their career. Yeah. Would
Yeah, well, I like that's something that Dan McDonald says a lot. That like the amount of Irish guys in League One, League Two who've had like fantastic careers that like people here would kind of scoff at or like not realize how well they've done in their respective career just because they're not at the championship or they're not in Ireland squads. They kind of get a bit overlooked. So yeah, definitely great moves for them after off the back of really good seasons in the League of Ireland. The two that kind of stand, two moves that stand out to me most, kind of obviously the ones in Scotland, not surprisingly. Firstly, Conor Ronan, a football manager goat. Anytime I'm managing Ireland on FM, he is just unbelievable for me. Always kind of tends to do well. Joining Aberdeen, who are managed by Stephen Robinson. Conor Ronan obviously played under Stephen Robinson a couple of years ago when he was on loan at St Mirren. Had a really productive season there. I think he was there with Jamie McGrath maybe, but he
generic
had a
Irish
like
number 10 signs for Scottish team. Like,
yeah,
there's so many
it
of them.
may as I said, it makes sense. But yeah, like he had a really good season. I think it probably his best season of his career under Robinson at St. Mirren. So to reunite with him at Aberdeen makes a lot of sense. And even we don't have too much depth at number 10 option, it's definitely a nice move. And then obviously Will Ferry to Anderlecht. And Will Ferry has been attracting a lot of attention this summer. Turned down a move to a Czech club at the start of the window. Wasn't a top Czech club. I think maybe they're like the sixth best team in Czechia. Dundee United agreed a fee of 1 million or something, and Ferry turned it down. Celtic have been linked to them all window. In my opinion, I would love to have seen him us love to see us go for him. To be honest, I think he's been really impressive. Was excellent against Rangers in Dundee United's opening day draw against them. He's in advanced talks to join Anderlecht for 2.5 million. It should be a brilliant move for him to go to a club the size of Anderlecht and to a league like the Belgium league, which, as we've seen over the last few years, has kind of almost leapfrogged the Dutch league. Could you say really, like in terms of like the sales that the Belgium league is generating? There's a lot of, like how competitive it is. I think you could say that, could you?
I think they're more competitive anyways. I think a lot of it is because Ajax have fallen off a bit, but I would say the likes of PSV and Feyenoord are better squads than they have been recently. I think as in producing talent, they're doing pretty well, which is probably
Yeah,
a
but
lot
like the
down to
Belgium league,
Tony
very,
Bloom.
very, very. I'd say a more competitive league than Holland, and one definitely will be tested in. And again, a move that will bring him much more into the spotlight for an Ireland call up, and definitely if he's playing minutes for Anderlecht, I'm not sure if they're in European football. I think they could be Conference League maybe, because I
Yeah,
know Anderlecht have fallen off the last
I
few years.
I do want to see a lot more of him in the Ireland squad just to see what he's made of, especially in a wing back role. When you
And
have,
obviously, Anderlecht somewhere where Josh Cullen did play
yeah,
all those
yeah,
years
good
ago. I
ball.
don't think any other Irish players have played for them. And Sinclair Armstrong as well going to Turkey, definitely an underrated one given all of the talk about Melia going to Lincoln, all the depth at striker position, maybe one that's kind of people have forgotten about. But like Sinclair Armstrong, a guy with really, really elite physical attributes, so quick, playing the championship where a lot of teams obviously sit back. Like I think a move to Turkey where maybe there'll be a bit more space for him would probably suit him, and definitely a move that I'm eager to see how it turns out.
Yeah, good one. I'm gonna spring on a little game for you that I didn't have in our plan that we did not discuss, so this could go terribly. I've got a list of free agents for you here, James, and I want you to name for me in about 1 or 2 seconds without really thinking too much about it, a club that they can or should sign for. Is that okay with you?
Can I look at the list before or no? I'll just no, I won't look at the
No,
list.
go on. All
Don't want
right.
to ruin the
Starting.
game.
Seamus Coleman. Come on.
Coventry,
Will Smallbone.
Hibs.
Robbie Brady.
LAFC.
Alex Gilbert.
Millwall.
Dara Lenihan.
Preston.
Shane Duffy.
Wrexham.
That's it. I don't really know what the point of that game was, other than the fact that I'm meant to be in Eamon DC Park in about 20 minutes. And so I just needed to get through that list of free agents that we're going to talk about
I feel
way
like Shane
quicker.
Duffy to Wrexham is
Yeah,
definitely a
that
good
makes a
call.
lot of sense, doesn't it? That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
would make a lot of sense.
Um, yeah, surprised for a lot of them. I think we thought Willis Mobone would get a move. Granted, don't know an awful lot about Alex Gilbert, and I
I'm
think
interested
Darren.
that Coleman still hasn't decided
Yeah,
what kind of next move he's going to do.
I think he'll retire. I think there's not going to be a move for him, and I think he'll retire.
He definitely get a move to the MLS, surely, if he actively
So see,
pursued it.
I don't
But I
think he
don't
wants
know.
to
I
go
don't know
to
if he wants
America.
to. I think he wants to stay in Merseyside, doesn't
Yeah,
he? Really?
yeah, I would say so. Right, we're going to take one final break, and we're going to pop back with the end of our show. More news dropped on Ireland's controversial fixture with Israel this week. Don't want to get too much into it because it's something we've covered an awful lot on the show already. It looks like, without any doubt, the game is going to go ahead now. So I think we're probably done an awful lot with that discussion. We don't want to be it to be the only thing we're talking about, but it did come out this week that the FAI has made the decisions, according to them, due to operational challenges, to not have any home fans attending the game, or technical home game, in Serbia against Israel. I expected it to be the case, but it's interesting come that Israel will be allowed to have an allocation of some of their supporters for their home game in Hungary. Look, as I said, I don't want to rehash this debate over and over again, because more so we spent an awful lot of our last few podcasts talking about, not that it's a situation that it shouldn't be talked about, but a danger of it being the only thing that we're talking about. I do think, or since our last show as well, the EGM has voted 68% in favor for the game to be played. Look, I think I'm going to keep my take short on this one. It seems like the FAI is doing this because of the threat of protests. I don't think it's fair to take away the fans' threat or chance and voice of protest. They have a right to be able to do that, especially if it's a short number of fans. Maybe they don't think the game can go ahead with that, that the game would be disrupted, and that's fair enough. Maybe then this is a problem for UEFA. Like, why are they letting Israel fans to have a home game if we can't have it? It feels like we are being unfairly punished here by the FAI's fear that we would voice our opinion against this game going ahead, and that feels some sort of cowardly or some sort of unfair. Deeply unfair is how I would think this, but yeah, it's hard to think of another solution if they really think this game won't get played. At the other end of it, I would say if they think there's not going to be any disruptions in our next home game, which will be in against Austria, good luck, because I imagine I imagine that one's going to be taken a lot more harshly than the friendly against Qatar. I'd actually be interested to see what happens there.
They're almost prolonging the bad feeling. Like if they did if the two games were played like normally as usual with Irish fans allowed in, the protests would probably happen, and after those games, naturally it would end. Like, but now it'll be kind of feeding into the rest of our campaign almost, and will
Yeah,
probably maybe even be the talking point of our campaign going into games with kind of protests and stuff, and a lot of the discussion around that. So that is another point of it. I don't want to go too much about it. I agree with what you've said. Like, I think it is obviously deeply unfair that Israel will have fans and we don't. As is with UEFA, it's one rule for one and another for another. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It's extremely disappointing, and the FAI have not really shown any real backbone, which is the outcome which we kind of expected, regardless of kind of the stance we've taken on it. I think both of us were pretty pessimistic about what the FAI would actually do about it, and I feel like a lot of people probably been proven right.
yeah, and look, I think at the same time, if the FAI and the EGM members have voted for the game to go ahead, at some point it's fair enough. They're the ones making the decisions. If it's a decision that's been made within not only just the FAI but everyone that represents the FAI, pretty overwhelmingly so. And I think, although you don't have to agree with it, I think it's a lot more fairer, the outcome, now that they said that the game isn't being played, and I'm a lot more okay with it, or that is being played. and I'm a lot more okay with it being played. Not that I fully am on board, and I don't think I ever would be. That there has been a vote on it. At least there has been a chance for representation and for people to
Well,
get their voices
like
heard.
I don't think any other Israel fixture with nations has been behind closed doors. Like Scotland have played Israel, Norway have played Israel, and the games haven't been behind closed doors. Like just because they fear that there's going to be severe protest
Mm.
isn't really warranted enough. Isn't a warranted enough excuse to put it behind closed doors. That would be one of the main qualms I have with this. Like that, even though I disagree that they're playing the game, they're not even giving people the chance to protest or the right to voice their feeling about it, which is just cowardly, as you said.
It feels like we're punishing ourselves for daring to not be happy with the fixture in a way. But yeah, I mean, I imagine it is still a headache because nobody wants to have no home fans, not least the FAI. But if they think the game's not going to go ahead, I don't know what their other solution is. But yeah, it still feels unfair. Didn't want to end on a sour note, and this definitely isn't a sour note, James. For under the radar this week, you've had someone that's been no surprise that we've been very excited about for some time now, and someone who I imagine is going to have a very exciting season with. Including his first senior cap for Ireland, surely coming in the 2026-2027 season. James, why are we talking about Owen Elding again?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, I know I've said this on X, but I really believe that he is going to be the Irish player who probably has the the most notable breakout season this year. Been really, really impressed with him. Obviously, since he came into Hibs last season, scored 3 goals in 13, so obviously not ridiculous stats, but he just kind of impressed me how comfortable at Scottish Premiership level he was. Obviously he's kind of really started this season well. 2 goals and assists in his first 4 games, 3 of those coming in the Conference League. And yeah, like a lot of Scottish media, I listen to a lot of Scottish podcasts, and like they all really fancy Elding to have a breakout season at Hibs. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he went on and scored kind of 15 plus goals. Obviously, that kind of depends on how good Hibs are. Like if Hibs are struggling to create chances, Elding might suffer. But like obviously with the likes of Jamie McGrath, hopefully Hibs are like reasonably productive, and if they are, I think really think Elding will have a breakout year. Played on the right wing against Scandia in the Conference League midweek. Obviously Scandia, who beat Shells 1-0 last year in the Conference League. But yeah, playing on the right midweek, and then he was moved to the middle at striker and scored instantly. I need the clips I've seen this season. His hold the play looks absolutely quality. His finishing has been just like pure, like just clinical from what I've seen. And yeah, I really think like he'll be a certainty for an Ireland call up if he can start the season in any kind of good form, because as you said, there's a lot of Irish players there playing at similar levels. If Owen is playing in Europe, which like Hibs should beat Scandia considering the gap in resources if they get to the playoff. I don't know who they'll get, but if they do somehow manage to get group stage football, that'd be huge for him and huge for his prospects of getting in the Ireland squad over maybe players playing in the championship. I don't think that's something to be fair that will be held against them considering just how talented and how good Owen is. But as I said earlier, it does kind of create that interesting conversation around the striker position in the national team. But yeah, really, really excited to watch Owen this season in the Premiership, and as I said, I really think he's going to have a breakout season.
Yeah, that point you had earlier on Troy Parrott or on I suppose Mason Melia, and it's really sticking in my head because it was an excellent point that these strikers don't have the same amount of pressures that strikers maybe playing under Kenny had, where Aaron Connolly was coming into the team at 18, 19, and we need you to start now, even though you're relatively inexperienced. It's nice that someone like Eldon can take his time. I mean, it was such, you were saying before the show, it was such a short time ago that he was playing League of Ireland football for Sligo. He's made the step up to the Scottish Premiership very well. He can take his time. He can settle in his first real season in there now as well in Scotland, and I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he can go on and become just a very very decent footballer, and it's someone I'm a big fan of as well. And again, there's not all the pressure in the world for him. He seems so committed to Ireland. It seems like everyone in the Ireland camp who make all the big decisions are very are very impressed with him. The fact that he's been included in squads when he didn't even have his passport yet is quite a good show of fate, I think. And yeah, I think Kamer will be a fan. I think it was clear how highly rated he was in the under 21s without even ever playing a game because he couldn't play a game. You know, when we were at the last press conference being told that we actually don't think he'll play for us, we think he's going to go straight into the first team. Yeah, like his ability to play out wide as well is very useful for him. He's clearly a quick player, quite strong. Again, I've said this about a few players who've come through the League of Ireland. The League of Ireland really builds you as a physical player because you've got a lot of centre backs who just like kicking shins. And yeah, I think that's just a quality that suits him. And yeah,
That's
just
what makes the kind of move to Scottish football so seamless, like in terms
yeah,
of Scottish football culture, Irish football culture. It's similar to both really physical leagues. And I think that's probably benefited him in that way. But
talk about
uh,
seamless. How about a seamless ending to this show? Because I gotta go. Um, yes, this has been Ireland Radar. I'm sorry, James, for cutting you off. We will be back in either a week or two or six or whenever. We don't really know what the schedule is. Hopefully, we will get back to every week now. It's a bit more difficult that I mean, James, we literally seen each other for the first time in 2 months last weekend. There was a plan to record, but I think a level of drinking got in the way.
to be fair, it is hard to find talking points during the transfer window. Like I feel like one episode kind of covering the transfer window, summing it up is kind of like there's no point kind of talking every week about like what potential move. Like I'd rather kind of
Yeah.
come in and talk about what moves have happened and not spend too much time waffling, which we do tend to do anyway.
And to a little peek behind the curtain as well, during the season last year, we've had quite a number of decently to high profile players say that they would love to come onto the show during the off season. I think it's kind of, I think once they're away and holiday in Ibiza, I think they kind of changed their mind on that very quickly, which is,
I don't think they're up for getting up at 9 a.m. in the morning to talk to us absolutely hanging
yeah,
after
Jesus, these
being
lads
at
haven't
O
even
Beach or
recorded in
something in
6 weeks. Like,
Ibiza.
why would I go on there? Like,
And
uh,
we're there struggling, maybe forgetting to press record, and they're sitting there absolutely hanging.
Yeah, that is truly the Ireland Radar experience. And if you want more of the Ireland Radar experience, make sure to follow us on all of our platforms, our YouTube, our Twitter. You can find us with our name. It's Ireland Radar. You already know it. The best thing you can do is like, share the show. A lot of people have been telling your friends about it, and it's been excellent for us. It's the best way to promote the show. For now, goodbye from me. Goodbye, James.
Goodbye.
And goodbye to you, listener.